I got hypnotized into seeing my past lives. The other day, I did my first past life regression alongside my girlfriend and Danny Miranda. Danny's a hypnotherapist, and I signed up for a session. I've worked with his coaching before, but hypnotherapy was new for both of us. He only recently started getting into hypnotherapy training a few months ago. Um, we both happen to be in Austin, Texas, so I signed up for a digital one on one session, and he just invited me over. Danny's main interest was digging into past lives and past life regressions. This is where you are brought through some of your past lives to see your struggles, what you learned, your way of living, how life was different, etc. Because he only recently got into the training, he hadn't begun leading past life regressions yet, but I expressed a shared interest along with him, so he found a YouTube video for us to do. And it was really great because all three of us could sit and do it together. And we shared our experiences at the end, which I will share toward the end of this video, toward like in a few minutes actually. Um, I had never thought much about past lives before, other than choosing my current life, my birth name, and my parents. I have believed that I chose these things and I came to experience those specific things, but I never really thought about like what was life like for me in past lives, in lives that are not this one, not my current life, where I have a different name, different body, different country, different ancestors, things like that. But the one connection was the soul and me experiencing these different lives. I've never thought about that. So we all sat down in the living room after chatting about 10 minutes and began our past life regression. As we got deeper into the hypnosis, I was not sure that I was doing this right. I had no idea. At tiny moments, my I was kind of like venturing off, like just a thought would come up, things would come up. I was a little bit scattered. But I brought myself back into the relaxation and into my mind's eye, into the envisioning, following the hypnosis. At one point, the hypnotist led us up this staircase. And at this time, right when we were in the middle of climbing the stairs, very slowly, very gently, the radiator, like, boom, turned on. This was a little bit distracting at first, but then I reminded myself that this was a sign. It feels like this radiator is blowing me up the stairs, and it felt super, super powerful. So I turned that distraction into a sign, and it was really magical because I feel like that could have ruined it for me potentially. So I'm very grateful I was able to realize that. Um, Once we got up the stairs, we eventually got into our actual past lives themselves. I saw two different past lives. One felt pretty long ago, a couple hundred years ago, and the other felt very recent, and I'll get into that one. But first, the first life I experienced, I saw myself living as a young Indian girl, maybe 10 to 12 years old, and I was being shamed by my mother. I had this still image of me kind of down here looking up at my mom, and I felt young too. And she was like just shaming me for something, looking down, like a just kind of a mean face. I felt shame. This made me feel like I couldn't be the actual person that I wanted to be. And then in that life as that little Indian girl, I grew up and became like a leader around my village. I was leading some kind of movement. I was helping others in this like smaller village community. And I was doing very good things. I was on the right track. And then that life ended with like some accident. Like I died in like I don't know if it was like a freak accident, but I was not really meant to die quite yet is what it felt like. So that was the first one, and I'll get into some connections from that in a minute. But first, I'm going to explain my second life, which was much different. I was a woman again, but in my 20s or 30s, potentially. I was in a big city in like this nightlife setting. I vividly remember like kind of standing, leaning up on the side of like a downtown area, like tall buildings, nights, like the neon lights, all that stuff, smoking a cigarette. And in that, the thought of my husband came up in my head, and then it just kind of went away. So it felt like he was not a very important character in that life. He was just kind of there, and not really, there wasn't too much love between those two, and it wasn't anything important. And I felt like I was just waiting. Like I was sitting there at the corner, just smoking, waiting for something to happen, waiting for something interesting, waiting to see something interesting, waiting for my life to get interesting. It just felt like I just kept on waiting and waiting and waiting. But I had so much excitement, and I had so much excitement for goals and aspirations, and I wanted cool things to happen, but I just waited. I let them come to me, and they never did. And I remember dying as an old lady. I don't know old lady, but I grew up into older age, and then I died with nothing very special. And I waited my life away. And that felt extremely recent, like it could have been 90s or 2000s, like only quite a few years ago, and I was born in 2005. And then later on, the hypnotist guided me to consult my spirit council, which is like a group of like the elder overseers of my spirit. After my soul exited that life, I consulted this group, this spirit council. I asked the council, what did I learn from this lifetime? And immediately the council shouted back, conviction, conviction, conviction. Like after 60 to 70 years of waiting around in my most recent lifetime, they were waiting. Like they saw that. They saw that I was just doing nothing and waiting. And they were probably sick of me waiting. So when I got there, they were like, conviction, do things. Be confident in yourself. You want something, have conviction, and do that. And I think that's part of why I may have come into this life after only maybe 10 or 15 years again. I was like, I don't have to wait around in between lives for so long. I know what I want. Let's have conviction and let's go do it. And I think that may also have something to do with coming back as a male. The two that I experienced, I was a woman, and now I came into this life as a man with maybe a little bit more masculine energy, and learning how to balance that, and having to like do what I want, like having conviction and agency and living life like that, so that way I'm not waiting. I've kind of done things aligned with my goals since I was 17. I started getting into personal development and learning and expanding my knowledge and skill set. It's like I didn't want to wait. I didn't like waiting around. I didn't want to do that. So I feel like that's really been a key thing in my life, is like I've not waited for much. I've not waited for cool things to happen or to live a dream life. I've just done it. And now it's been, I think, a week, exactly a week, to the hour actually, literally exactly 7 days ago, I was in this hypnotherapy experiencing this, to the hour, to the minute. Just looking at the time right now. So I have a little bit more reflection. Um, so I have a little bit more reflection on it, looking back on it now after some time has passed. I first had resistance when I felt the image of the young Indian girl. I didn't know if the hypnosis was working right. I didn't think I could possibly be that different. Like I was a young girl from India living in a village. I felt like I couldn't relate to that much, but it was clear to me. I felt like I couldn't relate to it that much. And there was a lot of uncertainty. I was like, I don't know. I don't know about this at first. While I was in the trance, in the hypnosis. And I just decided, I was like, okay, the uncertainty, I'm just going to blow that away. I'm going to be here. Whether it was true or not, I kind of just chose to follow the thing that I was seeing and what I was experiencing. And I could see a lot of people putting up barriers of resistance to this because they're not sure, like, is this real or not? Or how could this be right? Or things like that. So that's why I decided to just set this aside, because I didn't feel the need to like know if it was real or not. And after the session, me and Danny were talking a bit, and I had a really unique thought. I was like, I don't know if I don't need this to be real necessarily. Like, I don't know if those were actually my real life past lives or not. You know, I don't know. And to me it doesn't really matter if that was real or not, because I still learned from those lives. I learned as a young Indian girl to be a leader and be myself. And people may shame or they may think they're things, but I'm going to be who I am. And that's what I learned in that life. And I learned in my second life to not wait around. Like, let's have conviction, let's have some agency, let's go, let's go. Let's what do I want? Let's do it. You know, I learned two very very important things, arguably two of the most important things, and I wouldn't have learned that if I was concerned whether this was real or not. Because, to be honest, it doesn't matter. If I attached to what was real, I may have been skeptical forever and not have learned that. So while I do personally believe that those were my past lives, I don't need to. I don't need to feel attached to that idea. I've learned that I'm supposed to step more into leadership and more into myself as I grow into adulthood, which also happens to line with, I say happens, which also divinely aligns with my astrology and my numerology. Putting myself in the center, being that leader, guiding others to a higher way of living, using unique lessons from my past lives to act with conviction and with agency. I've learned two extremely important things that are going to lead me right now forward in life. So, honestly, I don't care if it's real or not. It's fun to believe, it's fun to do, it's fun to think about. I personally do believe that it was real, but it doesn't matter if it was real. And I'm already excited to get more into hypnotherapy and potentially do another past life regression. I don't have one scheduled right now, or I don't have any planned time on when to do it, but I'm excited. But for now, I feel like I don't need any more, but I'm definitely open to it in the future. So that is my experience with my first ever hypnotherapy session, doing a past life regression with my girlfriend and Danny Miranda. If you were thinking about it, I would highly suggest you look into this stuff. And if you want to, Danny is running a New Year's Eve hypnosis group call. I can put the link in the description of this video. I believe it's at noon Central Time, where you just buy a ticket, show up to the group call, you get a group recording, and it's a group hypnosis the day before the new year. So you can hit the new year like going strong. And I would highly recommend that if you were interested. I have no affiliation. I'm not making money. He didn't tell me to do that. I just personally thought it was a very beautiful experience. So that will be in the description for you. Thank you for watching.